High-profile names in the Nigerian banking sector are meeting with their private sector counterparts next week to further promote the relationship between the two key sections of the Nigerian economy. Midwife in the Stakeholders Forum is the body of corporate affairs managers in the Nigerian banking industry. Joining me for a chat to this is the president of ACAB, Rasheed Bolarinwa, is live here in the studio with me. Good evening. Great to see you.
Good evening, boss.
Thank you. Where is the meeting point? I know for you bankers, it's all about time is money. So let's see the ground running between banking and the private sector. Look, you guys are joined at the waist, as it were.
Yes. To the extent that the financial intermediation are crucial to economic growth, there is bound to be a meeting point between the banking sector and the organized private sector, who are the real players in that sector, while the banking sector is the fund drivers. You and I know that finance, which is the essence of banking, drives the organized private sector. Our elementary economics teaches us that capital is the most important factor of production. Conversely, the private sector as well do a lot, within the space to ensure that there's a viral and sustainable banking industry. So with this, there's need for us to promote the synergy between both sectors, and that is what this talk shop is going to elucidate on.
The banking sector and the private sector, whenever we get reports about the credits from the banking sector to the real sector, ears are always up about how critical are these two in terms of feeding national development, using the private sector with the banks being the one that has the pipeline of money.
You really know that the two sectors are the most critical. The private sector is the biggest in the national economy. The private sector needs the banks, while the banks also need the private sector. We provide both the short-term funding and the long-term funding. If a private sector operator wants to open up his or her business, that person is going to speak with the banking sector and will provide the required funding, that is needed to build that sector. We galvanize credit, from our own sector to the surplus side, and we redistribute to the deficit side, while the private sector is on the productive side, the creating wealth and value. And the private sector is the biggest sector in the economy, and they just have to rely on the banking sector. So
when you folks are going to sit together around the table and talk, what are the key issues right now that both parties would want to talk about in the interest of the national economy?
We are going to speak about funding. Funding is very key.
So it's going to be about money, right?
Yes. It's going to be about money.
Around the table where you guys
just have to
discussing money.
We will look forward to
but what
meeting
are the
with
key
you.
issues that you think both parties need to really judge over?
Providing the required environment, that easy access to funding, by the sector. Between the records from NBS shows that between December 2021 and December 2022, total credits from DMBs to the organized private sector stood at 4.09 trillion. That is huge, and we continue to advance credit to that sector, with manufacturing, general commerce, and oil and gas. We just cannot but work together and ensure that we develop this economy, the way we want to.
Are we seeing further at the private sector looking for support from the banks? Yes, they need cash at every point in time. Sometimes you take them to the market and all of that. But again, the state of the economy, is it a concern for the banks in terms of how you relate to the private sector and vice versa?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. We know that we just have to continue to build that relationship, build that synergy, and ensure that whatever is advanced to the private sector is an amount that they will be able to service their loans. It's very, very key. Because a sector that provides almost 90% of jobs and funds almost 60% of investment and gives almost 80%, of government revenue, required all the support from the banking sector, and we will continue to give that.
Okay, so what's your outlook on this stakeholders conference, the parties involved,
yes.
And what makes it very imperative at this point in time? We're looking at exchange rate, we're looking at inflation, and
cost of production.
Cost of production, which I'm sure these stakeholders will want to discuss with you.
Yes, the essence of this conference is to develop a roadmap and develop that synergy that will benefit both sectors. And with the galaxy of seasoned technocrats that will come from both ends, both from the DMBs and the private sector, we should be able to develop a very robust communique at the end of the conference. That communique will be made available to the players in the sector and also to the critical sectors of the economy for policy articulation and also for reference.
Oh, that's my point when you talk about policy. When you talk about policies, the banking sector and the organized the private sector need policies. Both of you need policies to drive what you do at both ends. So it's important that you have the policy makers in the room.
They are going to be there. We have, this is in partnership with the Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria. The CBN governor is expected to be the keynote speaker. We have players like NASI, Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, going to be there. We have NASIMA, LCCI, going to be available. All of them are going to speak at this session. And we expect and also look forward to.
Yeah, those are different stakeholders.
Yes.
Do you need Ministry of Finance on the table, around the table?
Once we have a CBN.
Okay, that's the so the central bank will be very key, on the side of the banks, and of course for the private sector, you're looking at the LCCI. In terms of your and Nasima, in terms of the outlook on this conference and what the package of discussions will be, what is the outlook for the banking sector for this year?
It looks positive, and we believe very strongly that we'll end the year, on a positive note, irrespective of what is happening, around the world. The war in Ukraine and Russia is impacting very negatively. The prices of diesel, running costs is really hitting very hard. Coming out of COVID.
Is it hitting you banks?
Of course.
I know you guys have all the money to buy
when you don't have power, you have to run on alternate power and diesel.
So you banks are feeling it?
We are feeling it very strongly, but we believe that the outlook looks
Are the private sector operators really worried about state of things when they talk to you bankers?
They do. And
what are their chief concerns?
The chief concern is the costs of operating, within this economy. You've seen what has happened in the aviation sector.
Yes, with the jet fuel.
Calling on government to almost for a bailout. So these are part of the issues that will be articulated, at this conference. We believe that there has been a misunderstanding, between these two critical sectors, and there hasn't been a final resolution at some point. And the Association of Corporate Communications Professionals and Marketing Professionals in the banking sector just felt the need to bring together these two key players to sit down, talk, discuss about their fears and what needs to be done for us to really take this country.
Will the loan book be one major conversation in terms of how you give credit as banks and you want the private sector enterprise, boosting enterprise to
of course, you can always reach out to the banks whenever you are ready.
I know, because the credit is a major issue between banks and
But if you look at the figure that I just read out now, 4.09 trillion within a year, even when COVID happened, that has progressed very strongly. We will continue to do better, and we believe that if the banks advanced very strongly to the private sector and we build the industrial base of Nigeria, we will be able to lift this economy, out of where it is.
Okay, let's wish you all the best, and
I look forward.
Thank you so much for your time. Rasheed Bolarinwa, President of the Association of Corporate Affairs Managers of Banks.